Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So in this video, I wanted to explain how you would break the 6,000 power barrier mark for your heroes in general, because this is a question that actually comes up pretty often amongst my viewers. So here we go. You can see just from this ranking that in fact a lot of players on my server, Rocky Valley, have actually broken the 7,000 power mark, right? At the very least, the top 19 players have at least one character that's broken 7,000 in power. And the question is, how do they do so? Well, first of all, I should mention that if you look at these characters, almost every single one is in truth Bozal, right? There is, let's say, this juggler here with 7167 power, but they are mostly Bozal, with the occasional other character mixed in, like Bernhard here, juggler there, you know. So I should mention at the very first thing that Bozal seems to have way more power than he should. Different heroes do have different power ratings. I personally believe that a huge part of this seems to be just the hit point stat of Bozal in general. It seems to factor in a lot more power for Bozal than for other heroes, for whatever reason. But other than that, your power rating comes from several things. First is equipment, right? If you have all SSR equipment, that definitely helps a lot with power. For example, my Bozal right now has 6522 power. If I change this piece of gear to an SSR piece of gear, like the Veil of Light, his power has gone up a little bit. Sorry, let me just... So 6571, right? And that is without the clock's hit point buff either, right? So 6522 to 6571, just for changing a piece of gear. And I should also note that, so yeah, I mean, gear definitely has a big effect on your power. The second thing that has an effect is definitely your enchant values, right? The more percentages and stat buffs the enchant values give, the better it is. I should also mention that, weirdly enough, hit points is generally factored as a higher power value than actual stats like attack or magic defense or whatnot. So if you were aiming for pure power rating, it's not linked to combat effectiveness, but if you roll for maximum hit point enchants on every single piece of gear, you can buff up your power that way. It won't look very accurate in terms of how combat effective your character is, but that is a way to, I guess, buff up your power if you so wish. The other aspects of increasing power on your characters is first, star level, right? The higher your star level, the more base stats your character has and the higher power it has. My Bozal is 5 stars out of 6 stars, and I'm certain this is costing me some power and preventing me from having a Bozal that's incredibly strong. You can see my Bozal is actually ranked 190th amongst the strongest heroes of my server because it's only 6522 power, as opposed to, let's say, a 7433 Bozal power. Alright, so star level we've mentioned, equipment being all SSRs we've mentioned, high enchant values we've mentioned, right? The other thing about power is actually your skills as well. If I remove a skill, for example, my power drops, and in fact it dropped more, close to 200, right? Just from removing the Dark Waltz skill. So different skills do add a certain amount of power, and it's another, I guess, way to buff up your power without really increasing your character's effectiveness. Other than these things that buffing up power, there is also, of course, your character bonds. Bonds affect your character's stats and will, as a result, affect the character's power. In my case, my Bozal doesn't even have his strength bond unlocked, which is also affecting his power rating. Now, I should mention, the strength bond effectively offers no combat boost for Bozal, in truth, because it increases attack, int, and skill. Bozo's int is replaced by his magic defense value. Bozo's attack doesn't matter. The only stat that would matter a bit is his skill. So effectively, if you upgrade Bozo's strength bond to level 9, I would get additional power, but once again, this additional power won't actually mean anything in terms of combat effectiveness. On the flip side though, the heart bond being maxed out and the toughness bond being maxed out or at level 9, as the case may be, is critically important because both of these bonds increase hit points, defense, and magic defense. Hit points especially, that really affects your power level. And having a level 10 heart bond, giving the additional stats, all hero stats 5%, really helps increase your power value as well. So, having your character at 6 stars with the bonds fully upgraded is a huge difference in the power value. And the final thing that really affects power, which is often not mentioned, is your soldiers and how upgraded your soldiers are. Specifically, if you have level 10 soldiers, it's going to have a huge effect on your power. For example, let me just go back to my Bozo. As the example, with level 10 sorceresses, my current power is 6522. If I change it to a soldier that I know is at level 5, such as Stone Colossus, look at my power drop. Right? So, the difference between a level 5 Stone Colossus and a level 10 sorceress is close to 500 power? Is that the case? Yeah. Pretty much close to 500 power. If you really want to break it down, I think it's like 450-ish or so. But you can see, soldiers makes a huge difference in power. And it's determined by how upgraded the soldiers are. Right? In my case, just bringing up the example soldiers. Oh, sorry. The Stone Colossus are level 6. Right? But the bond upgrades are maxed out, or as far maxed out as I can get them personally. So level 6 Stone Colossus versus these level 10 Sorceress was a difference in 400 power. So having upgraded training grounds really affects your soldier power as well. And the other thing to mention here is it's not just the soldier power that matters. The soldier level at level 10 that matters. Having all these additional upgrades affects it a lot too, like the core upgrades, because at level 14, these upgrades are offering 24% stat increase, which really helps. But at level 20, in fact, these stat upgrades are actually plus 40%, as an interesting note. So if you have these upgraded, that will actually increase your power significantly as well. Now, me being free to play, I don't have the luxury or the resources to actually upgrade these to level 20. So this is another factor in basically my low power ranking for my heroes. Because I'm pretty sure, for example, Harem King and Suin, they have level 20 core upgrades on their training ground base techs, whereas I'm at level 14, which is also leading to a difference in hero power. In terms of combat effectiveness, in truth, I think it's a minimal effect in general. Don't get me wrong, it does matter, but I'm pretty sure that in the long-term scheme of things, I won't have any problems one-shotting his characters. Like, I'm pretty certain the 16% additional defense and magic defense and 16% additional attack doesn't prevent my characters from one-shotting theirs. So in terms of PvP effect, it's minimal. In terms of PvE content, well, it does add some additional damage, which helps, right? There's videos of people, clearing certain fights in 2 or 3 turns. And a huge part of that is probably because they have that extra attack value, allowing them to do more damage, which is what I'm lacking. So it does offer advantages, don't get me wrong, especially the attack increase, right? But the defense and hit point survivability ones, I'm pretty sure you can kind of skip in all honesty. So there you go. Those are all the ways to increase your character power and break the 6,000 level mark. The very final thing I should mention is, in truth, not every character has that ability to break the 6,000 mark. It really depends on their core stats and them being 6 stars, right? For example, if I look at my Zerida, in truth, my Zerida has all SSR gear. She has pretty good enchants in terms of hit point increases and attack increases. And yet, you know, there is 6% and 11% here, meaning she has an additional 17% hit point increase. And yet, she is only at 57-58 power, not breaking the 6k mark. Right? That's the same case for, let's say, Tieris and Liana. They're all below 6k. But other characters like Bozel, Lena, Elwyn, and Leon, and Juggler, and Landius, and even Rene have all broken the 6k mark. So it just goes to show, some characters have higher, I guess, almost base power in general, which means it's easier for them to break that 6k mark. Other characters, they're going to need near perfect enchants to break it. Maybe, for example, if my Zerida had a 15% hit point increase here, 15% hit point increase here, 10% hit point increase here with 10% attack, and then another 10% hit point with 15% attack, she would definitely break 6k power, right, with all those additional hit point increases. But realistically, you're never going to roll that many enchant scrolls to get her such ideal enchants. So, in some ways, you will pick and choose which characters should break the 6k mark and which characters shouldn't. And that is very much based on their core stats as well as their star levels and so on. Alright, so I hope you found this video useful. I know I ranted a bit, went on a bit about all this, but you know, at the end of the day, my personal opinion is, if your character has every stat, every enchant provide this core stat that character needs, and a decent amount of hit point increases, like let's say around 15% or so hit point increases, your character will be very, very good, even if their power level is not as high as it potentially could be. So, there you go. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this information useful. And on that note, Nitro out.